This is Author Conversations, the Stenhouse Publishers podcast. In our previous installment, Kelly Gallagher discussed his use of real-world text in class, and today he explains how he works with students to build personalized writing rubrics.
We build our scoring guide together. I've chosen 2 or 3 things that I think will be of most benefit to the class as a whole, and I run the students through that. So, for example, if my students are having trouble with the introductions, I will bring in a couple of student samples of introductions that I have marked or tagged during my first draft or my first reading of the essays. When I bring them in, I generally show them 2 models, one that meets the standards and one that exceeds the standards. I put those up for the children to see. I don't tell them which is which, and they have to have, together in their groups and along with me facilitating, they have to have some meaningful discussion on which of these 2 models do they think meets the standard, which of these 2 models do they believe exceeds the standards, and we talk about the features of that. And then once we have done that, we then build the scoring guide together. The scoring guide that I use is not a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kind of scoring guide. I simply have it broken down into meets the standards, exceeds the standards, or does not meet the standards. And so with those 3 elements in mind and with the models that I bring into the classroom, we build the scoring guide together, at least the first half of the scoring guide together. So I've brought in 2 or 3 different elements that I've noticed in their draft. We may do something with craft like introductions. I may do something with editing, for example. They're not getting quotation marks correct. And we'll build that rubric. When I read the papers the first time, I mark only 2 comments at the bottom of each paper. So, for example, a student may have a transition problems. A student may need more development in her conclusion. And so once we have built the first half of the rubric, the bottom half then is tailored for each student's needs. Each student in the class has the exact same scoring guide for the top half of the scoring guide, but the bottom half of the scoring guide is tailored for the 2 errors that I saw on each of the papers, because I do not believe that a one-size-fits-all scoring guide is really produces the greatest benefit to my students in the classroom. So we end up the process with scoring guides that are half whole class and half tailored to each and every student. Once I pass the papers back mid-process, students work on revising their papers, and while they're revising them, I will call them up in small groups. I will say, for example, raise your hand if I wrote problematic introduction, and 4 or 5 kids may raise their hand. And so while the rest of the class is revising their papers, I'll pull those 4 or 5 kids up and we'll do a little 4 or 5 minute mini lesson together. They will then go back and work on revising their essays, and then I might say, raise your hand please if you have I've written run-ons as a problem on your paper. Okay, you 4 students, you come up, and so they will meet with me. So rather than do whole class mini lessons, which tend to only benefit some of the students in the class, I tend to try to do my mini lessons in small group situations depending on the specific needs of each and every writer.
To learn more about Kelly's approach to literacy, check out his books Teaching Adolescent Writers, Deeper Reading, and Reading Reasons, and his DVDs, Building Adolescent Readers, and 20 Questions Homework, all available online and through your Stenhouse distributor. Thanks for listening.